Hey everyone, welcome back to Tidbits with Tara. Today I'm going to talk about some scripture that really bothered me for a long time, and I couldn't quite wrap my mind around it. And I remember many times lying in bed awake, just feeling very afraid because I didn't get it, and I never wanted to have the Master Yeshua speak these words to me. And what are these words? We can find that in Matthew 7:21 through 23. Not everyone who says to me, Master, Master, shall enter the reign of the heavens, but he who is doing the desire of my Father in the heavens. Many shall say to me in that day, Master, Master, have we not prophesied in your name? Have we not cast out demons in your name? Have we not done mighty works in your name? And then I shall declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. You see, Yeshua is referring to a believer here. They are considered to be a believer. They're calling on his name. They're prophesying in his name. They're casting out demons in his name. They're doing many mighty works in his name. So they're not denying him. They're not rebuking him. They're not atheists. They are believers. And Yeshua declares, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. And these are the words that kept me up at night. And why would he say that to somebody who was doing all these amazing acts for him? So I wanted to know what he meant, and I wanted to study. So I started to study his word, and I wanted to know what it meant. And at that time, I would consider myself a really strong Christian, and I really was, and I really was doing my best to be who I was for him. But according to these verses, there was probably a really good possibility that Yeshua Messiah would have said to me, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. And there's two key words here that we should be looking at, and that's the Father's will, because he says in the first part of that scripture that he who is doing the Father's will, they will reign in heaven. So what is that will? That will is to listen and obey, to follow what he says to do, to follow his commandments, his instructions. And he wants his children to be sanctified. He does not want us looking like the world. He wants us to be set apart, to be Kodesh. And he says that he will equip us to do his will. So following his instructions, that's what he wants. It's not burdensome. It's a good thing. So he does that for our benefit. The other word is lawlessness, because this is, Yeshua here, this is what he's saying, that why he would say to us, he never knew us, and that he would want us to depart from him and be separate from him. And that is that word lawlessness. And I never want to hear those words. And I know you love him. You don't want to hear those words either. But lawlessness is wickedness. It's iniquity. It's sin. Lawlessness is in violation of breaking the Torah or his instructions in the Torah. It's unrighteousness, and unrighteousness is violating what Yah says is just. And these are Yahweh's standards. And when we break his instructions and we break the law, we are lawbreakers and we are lawlessness and we disrespect what is true justice. And listen, you guys have your scriptures out there. This is not a book for dummies. In James 1:5, he says that if you lack wisdom, ask of him, and he will give generously and without reproach, and it should be given to you. So ask him about these instructions. Ask him for wisdom, and it shall be given to you. Now, if we read on in Matthew, it says, therefore, anyone who hears these words of mine and does them shall be a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain came down, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on the house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them shall be like a foolish man who built his house upon the sand. And the rain came down, the floods came in, and the winds blew and beat on the house, and it fell. And it was a great fall. So let's be wise. Let's build our house on a firm foundation, the rock, the truth, the word. We easily follow into man's tradition. And there's pastors and preachers and teachers and priests out there teaching against following Yahweh's law. They teach that it's bad. But what is really bad about it? Do we know? Or is it just something that we keep hearing? And there's nothing that we should be afraid of in following his law. How many of us are following man's tradition and following Christmas and Easter and Halloween and Valentine's Day and all those holidays that man made and are actually rooted in paganism? And we so easily do those, and we're not afraid of those, even though a lot of those people who are doing those holidays are not even believers in Yahweh and his son Yeshua. And so research that out, see where those holidays began, and don't be afraid to follow his feast days. They're so beautiful and intimate, and they're all about Yeshua. The first 4 feasts, Passover and unleavened bread and first fruits and Shavuot, those are all feasts that Yeshua already fulfilled. But he's coming back to fill the last 3, the fall feast, which are trumpets, Day of Atonement, and tabernacles. And the beauty of it is when you celebrate Passover and you wash your family's feet and you read scripture and you worship Yahweh and bring him honor and glory, and you talk about Yeshua, our Passover lamb, and that someday we're going to have Exodus again, and then you have unleavened bread, and that is where you take the yeast out of your home, because yeast in the scripture represents sin. So it's not only a physical cleaning, but it's a spiritual cleaning. And then you have first fruits, which counts the Omer down to Shavuot, which is Pentecost, where we are asking Yahweh, please give us your Ruach HaKodesh, because that is what teaches us. That's what brings us into truth. And then you have Feast of Trumpets, where you're blowing the shofar, and we will see Yeshua coming on the clouds, where there's going to be a trump. There's going to be a call with the trumpet. And then Day of Atonement, where our souls will feel afflicted that day when we're before our King and we see everything we've done that was not worthy of him. And then we have Feast of Tabernacles, and where you are in a dwelling booth. We're in the wilderness right now, people. This is where we are in the rehearsal for waiting for our bridegroom to come. So these are not feasts that we should be afraid of. They are all about Yeshua Messiah, and they should be celebrated. They are his feast. And then you have Sabbath, and Sabbath is actually a feast. And then how many of us have tried every man-made diet out there, but we don't understand Yahweh's dietary law. He knows how to feed his children. Check into the dietary law. He loves you. He wants you to feed his temple well. And so just a few more verses I have for you and some final thoughts. And I want to go to Romans 1:16 through 17. For I am not ashamed of the good news of Messiah, for it is the power of Elohim for deliverance to everyone who believes, to the Yehuda first, and also to the Greek. For in it the righteousness of Elohim is revealed from belief to belief, as it has been written, but the righteousness shall live by belief. Let's go to Luke 1:6. And they were both righteous before Elohim, blameless, walking in all the commands and righteousness of Elohim. So what is righteous? We can find that out in Deuteronomy. So go with me to Deuteronomy 6:24 through 25. And Yahweh commanded us to do all these laws, to fear Yahweh our Elohim for our good always, to keep us alive as it is today. And it is righteousness for us when we guard and do all his commands, all that he command before Yahweh our Elohim, as he has commanded us. So he is commanding us to live out righteousness for his name's sake. And I just ask that you search these matters out for yourself. Search out what his will is. Search out what it is to live righteously or unrighteously. What is iniquity? What is sin? What is lawlessness? Search out these matters for your King. And I pray that this tidbit with Tara would give you a desire to search it out, so that he doesn't say to his people that really do love him that we're doing things, mighty things in his name, that he never says to you or to I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. Let's follow his word, his whole word, and not be afraid of it. Until next time, blessings and shalom.